Hey, this is Jen with Genuinely High and an all-new episode right now of Afternoon Relights. It is the first episode, so I hope you enjoy. It's basically where I'm stealing the classic things that delight me idea, and right off the bat, I'm sorry this isn't like Oprah's favorite things episode. You don't get anything, and you don't get anything, and you all don't get anything. I mean, I guess this isn't like nothing. You did just get a really horrible Oprah impression, and we do get to spend the afternoon together. Well, probably around 20 minutes, or however long I decide to babble, talking about what's relighting me this week. And this week it is the Missing Richard Simmons podcast, and I'm missing words already. Alright, so since that intro is so great, we probably should sing the theme song now. I'm hopeful. I hope you are too. This is Afternoon Relights with Jen. My throat kinda hurts, but doesn't matter when I'm singing so bad. Just for you, let's get back to me talking. I know you'd like that too. Woo! Alright, that was hard. I apologize. I'm going to apologize a lot about my singing, and you may wonder, why do you keep singing then, Jen? It's a great question. Maybe we can talk about that later, because right now we're going to talk about Richard Simmons. And personally, I don't know how you feel about Richard Simmons, but you're going to hear a whole lot about how I feel about Richard Simmons, and how the creator of the Missing Richard Simmons podcast feels about Richard Simmons. But first, let's talk about me, because this is what this podcast is all about. So, I've always kind of loved Richard Simmons in that dolphin short, wearing hyper little white man, that furrow thing he always did. I even used to do Sweating to the Oldies back in the day. Now, don't start doing the math. I'm not that old. I was in elementary school. Okay, don't do that math either. I said no math. This is like a math-free podcast. I should have put that in the intro. No? Header? Tagline? Maybe? Somewhere? Title? Maybe next time. Anyways, for PE, sometimes we would do aerobics videos in the cafeteria. It had a stage, and if you were the coolest of the cool like me, you got to dance about how it was your party, and you'd cry if you want to. Now, I don't think some of you youngsters might understand what kind of huge responsibility this is. Was. Anyways, they had these TVs on carts, and they'd roll them out, and that's how you got to watch your VHS tapes and such. So anyway, the only people that could see how awesome Richard Simmons and his gang of, diverse group of people, and it's something I didn't quite remember necessarily until the podcast mentioned it, that he was one of the first workout videos to include real people. Back then it was all Jane Fonda and Buns of Steel and stuff like that. So, you had to do it exactly right to the letter. There was no fun in fitness. There's still no fun in fitness, and I feel like the way that I said that was like there is fun in fitness, but there's not. There's an F, and there's an N. Oh, but it just needs you. I did it. You're welcome. I was kind of proud of that one, if you couldn't tell. So anyway, after hearing all about the host and creator of Missing Richard Simmons podcast, Dan Taberski, probably mispronouncing that incorrectly. I'm sorry, Dan. I think I listened to there's only 6 of them, so it wasn't that hard. Episodes twice, so I should totally know how to say your name, and I'm sorry I don't. But anyway, he starts out talking about his first encounter with Richard Simmons at a Slimmons class, and he describes it including crying, accents, stories, all to Rihanna Streisand, and Richard Simmons himself stripping him of his t-shirt and drying his torso with it. I mean, I thought my Sweating to the Oldies experience was fun on stage in a cafeteria as an elementary grade schooler, but it was nothing like that. So I can see why Dan, when he did some long pauses, while talking like I am. Wanted to find Richard after he went missing. So he took that first Simmons class, and soon he was hooked not only kind of on Richard, but the experience of working out, etc. I may be adding a little bit of this when you listen to Dan's podcast. I don't think he says that. But anyway, they become friends. They hang out for about a year, I think. And then suddenly one day, Richard doesn't show up to his Simmons classes. And that was February 15th, 2014. And this podcast, not this one that you're listening to right now, the Missing Richard Simmons podcast, launched just 3 years later on February 15th, 2017. And I know, recommending a podcast already seems a little daunting. But don't worry, like I mentioned before, there's just 6 episodes. They're only 30 minutes each, and for me, it just flew by. I also really love Richard Simmons, and I'm not saying that you have to love Richard Simmons to like this podcast. I thought it was a very interesting look at a Richard Simmons that I didn't necessarily know. I mean, I always knew that he loved to make an entrance, and he was all singing and stuff like that. But I didn't really get that he was a very sad man who really needed attention. And he used to get that with real people too, because he also, I think, just really enjoyed helping people. And there was tons of stories from people that he met all over the country and like actually became like a weight loss coach for, and people from his cruises and his classes. And he even started, it might have been the first episode, with a Hollywood tour guide. And he told some great stories about how Richard Simmons is known on the Hollywood tour guide circuit of coming out of his house the most. And he'll come out and he'll talk to people and he'll meet them and he'll take pictures and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So I don't know if I mentioned, but Dan Taberski is also a filmmaker. So it kind of seemed like he might have filmed some of this. So there's some great audio footage of some of the lengths that he went to find that missing Richard Simmons, including going to his house that he had previously visited, as he had stated, and now there was a fence in front of it with no doorbell, no intercom, no real way to talk to him. He also takes a trip to New Orleans, Richard's hometown, and attempts to speak with his brother. And he really does go to like a lot of lengths to try to find Richard. And as a friend of his, it seems like he kind of knows different people, and it seems like he's kind of in the business. And I highly recommend you listening to this podcast and listening to it soon. It ended just, I think, a week or two ago, near the middle to end of March. And as it ended, how it ended is kind of getting out there. So I say you get on to like iTunes or Stitcher like I did and listen to them, and don't get any spoilers. I think it's kind of fun to kind of go on the experience with Dan, and because he, as he states in the beginning, he doesn't know how it's going to end either. So kind of like he does it in real time, it seems like, as he's recording these. So it's more authentic. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. There was wonderful clips of real life people, obviously Dan, and then it was also peppered with amazing Richard Simmons clips. Ones of old ones on talk shows and from his show, and just like all over the place, just like he was. So this has been Jen with another episode of Afternoon Relights. I thank you so much for tuning in. And when I said another episode, I meant like the first episode. I realized it made it seem like, oh, you're at the end of this one and you loved it so much. You're like, I need another one. I need to hear that other Afternoon Relights episode. There is none yet, but come back next week where there will be another thing that is relighting me. All right, let's play that crappy outro. And by play, I mean sing and make up right now. Bye. Here we go, guys. This was Afternoon Relights with Jen. I just babbled about Richard Simmons. missing? Is he not?